Go to you, Dave. Tell us just what do they agree on overnight?
Well, it definitely doesn't look like much because all they've done is tasked the commission to come forward with a proposal. But this is actually a major breakthrough because this is what they couldn't agree at all of the summits that they've had over the past month. This means that we are going to get a legislative proposal on a cap on the wholesale price of gas imported into the EU. 15 EU countries, probably 16, want that gas price cap. That would be enough to get a qualified majority vote in the Council. But the Commission was refusing to put forward a proposal saying there wasn't consensus. And a lot of people read that as meaning Germany hadn't given its green light. Well, last night Germany did give its green light, a very tentative green light, but just a green light for the Commission to come forward with a proposal, not to support this idea. So what happens next? Now that this has been given a kind of high-level thumbs up from the European Council, this will go to a meeting of the 27 national energy ministers happening on Tuesday. There they have to flesh out the details. What we had in the conclusions last night is it's only 2 paragraphs. It's very vague. It's their job on Tuesday to put meat on the bones. It's still possible that they could get hung up and in disagreements about the detail, and actually this all collapses on Tuesday. But this is a first step in getting this done. Once the energy ministers on Tuesday come up with a more detailed mandate, then the Commission will have to come out with a proposal to cap the price of gas, and then it will come back here to the Council. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz suggested last night there's going to have to be an additional emergency Council summit next month in order to look at that and decide whether to approve it or reject it. There is a lot of worry about this idea. There's a fear that it's going to turn a price crisis into a supply crisis, because if you cap the price that the EU is willing to pay for gas, it's a global market and the gas is going to go elsewhere. It's going to go to countries like Japan. So they did ask the Commission to do an impact assessment for this, to have safeguards. There's all kinds of caveats in the language last night, but this is an important step. It means the process is moving towards this gas price cap, which has been called for by countries like France, Italy, Spain, but opposed by mostly northern, frugal countries like Germany, Netherlands, and Denmark.
And that energy crisis, the focus on those talks on Thursday, today the second and final day of the summit. What will leaders be discussing?
Yeah, so the prime ministers and presidents are arriving just now. Behind me today, they're going to be talking about foreign policy. The subjects on the agenda are future EU relations with China, the war in Ukraine, and a very related note, Iran. Yesterday morning, the EU adopted sanctions on Iran, new sanctions on Iran, specifically for providing drones to Russia. Over the past 48 hours, I'm told they got conclusive proof that Iran supplied those drones after the outbreak of the Ukraine war, which will make this harder for Iran to have a legal challenge against its sanctions against 2 Iranian individuals and 1 entity. Originally, in the draft conclusions, there was a paragraph condemning Iran for its treatment of women and its crackdown on the current protests. Now a second paragraph will be added condemning Iran for helping Russia in its war against Ukraine. Then separately, we'll have this conversation on China. I think originally this was meant to be a bigger deal. It's kind of to react to the reappointment of President Xi in China. It is pretty watered down, I think, what I've seen with the latest draft. There were a bunch of countries calling for a reassessment of China's designation in 2019 as a strategic competitor of the EU. They wanted something more harsh, possibly recognizing China as an adversary. That doesn't look like it's going to happen today, I think, because the EU has a lot of other worries on its plate and doesn't want to add hostility with China to that list.
All right, Dave, thank you very much. Dave Keating reporting from Brussels.